Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanny and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Good.
Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
I'm loving the fact that summer has turned up.
Oh, I was just about to complain about how hot I am. But
It's a curse, isn't it? Like Janelle.
It is.
Too pretty.
It is.
Too pretty. The burden.
I'm sweltering because I've put Tony in. Tony's having a little lie down. I put the air conditioner on for him, but to avoid the noise, I shut the door. And so I'm getting no benefit of the air conditioner at all. And as you can see from the glorious light, even though I've got the blind down, I'm still getting a ton of light and sun in because the sun sets on that side. So it's quite warm in here, but that's okay. I can cope with that. The boys are gesticulating to the sunshine coming at the back of their heads, so they'll have sunburnt heads soon.
Yeah.
And Swanny's just looking around going, I don't know what you're talking about. It's sunny here.
Well, no, it's supposed to be hotter here this afternoon than what it's turned out to be. There's a bit of cloud cover, so I'm and it was really windy this morning, so I'm fine. It'll be a little bit hot later, but it's fine now, as I am 3 hours behind you guys.
So, any news? I moved into our house yesterday.
Oh,
that's so exciting.
Yeah, it was a long day, but my family were really good and my friend Gab, and we had a bit of a crew together, and I also had the removalists come. So by, I think, 4:30, everything was in the house. Oh, apart from the things that I think have been left behind, because I'm looking around going, where's this, where's that? So I'm going to have to do a trip to the unit this week to actually pick up on all the things that were not taken. But I don't think there'll be many.
Are you living there yet, darling?
Well, we stayed the night there last night.
Ooh.
But I was explaining to the boys that the internet's on, but I haven't tested it, and I didn't want to take the risk tonight. And I've got to get up at the crack of dawn and go to Bendigo in the morning, so I thought we'll stay here. Cause,
Are you going to Bendigo tomorrow?
I am going to Bendigo.
Overnight?
Yes, I am.
I'm going to be there.
Oh, shall we have a date?
Oh, no way.
Shall we do dinner?
Sure, that sounds like a great
plan.
plan.
I love that.
Oh, what are you doing, Swanny?
Oh, Swanny, you're going to Bendigo?
Oh, God.
I'll meet you halfway.
I guess I would have. I would be 3 hours behind. I was going to say I've got 3 extra hours, but it's the opposite. It's the other way going the other way, isn't it?
Who are we? I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanny.
And I'm Clarkey. And together we are
Trial
by Wine. Oh, that was very sedate. Well done, ladies.
That wasn't too bad. I'll tell you, it's all right for a hot Sunday night. And what are you drinking, speaking of wine?
Well, we're having a Tinto, which
soda
is
water.
no, it's a spritzer. Oh. It's red wine with a bit of lemon and soda water in it.
Is it nice?
It's delicious.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice. Very refreshing.
And I'm going to partake in a seltzer vodka and sparkling water that I'd bought for a friend when she came over, and then she ended up drinking them.
You need to warn me when you're going to break news like that. I was expecting a DC again.
It could be absolutely dreadful. Let's have a go. I'm a little bit concerned. It does say it's rosé and raspberry flavour, which could be a bit high.
Oh, rosé and raspberry. That sounds rough.
It does smell very artificial.
It's right up there with those rosés in a can that I had.
Yes.
That were like methylated spirits.
Oh.
No?
I can't believe the first time you brought a drink to this in months, you've brought trash.
I do have something else because I bought 2 sets of drinks. So I went and saw Dua Lipa recently. And
yes.
I may have mentioned this, I'm not sure, but I had a drink there that was a can. It sounds horrendous even as I say it. A can of margarita. But it was really quite yummy. So I bought some of those. And I had one the other day and I was saying to my girlfriend, try this. It's really nice. And my husband goes, maybe it's because it's full of sugar. And I went, maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked. And sure enough, the reason it was so yummy was because it was basically sugar and alcohol. I don't know. So,
syrup.
Having said that, I think it will be better than this. So I might have to go and get one of those and just put some soda water in it because I don't think this is going to be working.
I want to know if you're going to neck that so you can go on to your next one, or if you're going to tip it down the sink.
It kind of tastes like a hangover.
in a can.
It's something a bit. It's like old wine smell and soda water. It probably smells like me the day after I've been drinking.
Oh, that's funny.
Ugh.
And Schmidty, what are you drinking?
I hope you can bring us up a level.
Drinking a mango chutney.
Not really.
No, I'm not bringing us up a level.
Of course you
Mango
are.
chutney in a Trabo wine glass. I'm trying to pace myself. A, I've got a big story, and B, I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to end up having to go and get the furniture. So I'm just saying, well, as I said, Tony's having a nap, and we have organised to pick up some dining chairs this evening, and I'm just playing it by ear as to whether or not I'll be the Desi. So just one neat little drink, and I've got my soda water with me as well.
Well, keep yourself nice.
I think it's important for our listeners to understand as well, as you know, we say it's the beginning of Australian summer.
Police will be out in force. Yeah.
Hydration and heat and all those things are just trying to stay cool.
So I'll just, I guess, crack on into our story.
I'll do it. Oh, hang on a minute. Do you want me to do it? Has anyone got a story for us today?
No.
I have, as a matter of fact. Yes, I'm glad you asked. Oh, my word, Chanel. Yes, I have. Well, last week, we guffawed our way through the appalling story of Dennis Rader, and I cannot believe how much we laughed. I haven't actually edited it yet, but I do recall laughing, not obviously at the horrible stuff, but we found something funny in it. Who, of course, is one of America's most notorious one of America's most notorious silly killers.
No, I thought you were going to say celiacs.
Oh, he might have been too. No, one of America's most notorious serial killers. So I thought it'd be a good idea to follow up with another incredibly famous serial killer.
Oh, great.
Even though Swanny had never even heard of bacon, tomato and kale.
Yeah. Is this one going to be, what was it, delightful as well?
Oh, stop it. I'm so embarrassed.
Nothing delightful about this. No,
nothing delightful about it. I do apologise to everybody who thought that I'm some kind of sicko. I was so sure of that.
Yeah. So this is the story of Edmund Kemper. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes.
What did you say his name was today?
Edmund Kemper.
No.
Yeah. I love that you do a crime podcast and you've never heard of the most famous ones.
Because everybody knows. That's kind of the beauty of me is the fact that I don't listen to podcasts. I don't listen to our own podcasts. My cousin was telling me about one the other day that we listened to of ours. He said, well, I listened to one when I was in London. I was like, what was it about? He started telling me and I said, whose story was that? He went, yours. And I went, oh, okay. And I was like, I cannot remember what goes on from one week to the next. I am a total
I know that you forget them the minute we do them.
In fact, I had to look up Dennis Rader. I kid you not. I just had to look it up on my phone.
Who's Dennis Rader? He's bacon, tomato, kale.
Yes. I'm worried about me. I'm really worried. And remember, I'm the one who hardly drinks.
No, I think it's disassociative. It's a disassociative fugue.
Oh, I think you'll all be listening to this in the future going, they were the sign, the flags, the alarm. She's already had no memory. Oh, God. Anyway.
Oh, God. Let me pour another drink.
Yes.
So for you, Swanny, and also for other people who do not know this story, it's gross. So there's a trigger warning if you're affected by themes of incest, violent murder, mutilation and rape.
Oh, no.
I imagine most people are sticking around then.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Some pretty happy topics there.
Yeah. But, if these things really trigger you, then this is not the episode for you. So with that in mind, my sources are Wikipedia. Me. EdmundKemperStories.com. A thing that is called CVLTNation.com, and I'm not sure if it's meant to be Cult Nation, but it's got a V in it. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. I reckon it is.
Maybe, yeah. Murderpedia, crimepiperblog.wordpress.com.
Crime Piper.
That's what it's called, yeah.
Me sickos. It's
follow me, rats.
Pretty much.
It's the Crime Piper. I don't know why I put that stupid accent on, but anyway.
The Crime Piper. Anyway, and I also watched several YouTube videos featuring the big guy himself.
Oh.
So now you've got to keep up with this because do you remember we've talked before, Swanny, about dynasties?
Yes.
Well, there's a bit of a dynasty involved in this, and we have Edmund Emil Kemper III, who is the protagonist of the story. He was born on the 18th of December in 1948 in Burbank, California, to Clarnell Stage, who was 6 foot tall, and Edmund Emil Kemper II, who was 6'6".
Jeepers.
Yeah, they're a tall family.
Huge back then too. That's like being 8 foot now.
Yeah. Clarnell and Edmund II, or Ed 2, or Eddie 2.
Was his dad Slender Man?
No, he wasn't slender. He was a big built man.
Okay.
They had 3 children. The oldest was Susan, and then Edmund III, who they called Guy, because as a baby he'd had a sunsuit on it that had the words Little Guy on it, so it became his nickname.
Oh, that's so cute. See, it is delightful.
I thought you were going to say, because it's just too hard with too many Edmunds in the house. Like,
well, at first I thought that, and then I eventually found this anecdote about the sunsuit and thought, oh, okay. Because I was like, don't know what that's all about.
Did they call him Little Guy, and then as he grew up, they started calling him Guy, and by the end of it, they called him Big Guy?
They didn't call him Big Guy. They may have called him Little Guy until he grew up, but it was ironic because he was a massive baby. So he was never really a little guy. Yeah, he weighed over 12 pounds at birth.
Jeez.
And Clarnell required an episiotomy when she gave birth to him. Yes, and Carla knows what that is, and that's why she's got a nasty look on her face.
I'm shaking my head because I don't know what one is, but I'm just thinking
where you cut the perineum to allow the baby to come out.
What's the difference between that and a Caesar?
Caesar's hair, perineum's in the...
Oh, that bit.
From the vagina to the anus.
Sorry, I wasn't really paying attention. What was the one we were talking about at the top of the uterus? I was thinking that's where they got cut.
That was.
That was
just Swanny do that
Scott Peterson.
Scott Peterson. No, that was yours, Clark.
Yeah.
Yes. And anyway, the youngest daughter was called, I'm going to say Alan, I think it is, or Alyn. It's Allyn.
Who that thing for?
Alan.
Dave.
Alan.
Pretty spelling.
Yes.
No, I don't know. Maybe Alyn. They. I think maybe. I don't know where they came from. I think they may have some German background.
Had to be Dutch if they were tall, surely.
Maybe, I don't know.
It's that simple for me.
From everything I've read about Edmund's early life, it wasn't good, and that is an understatement. His father had served in World War II and had tested atomic bombs in the Pacific before becoming a civilian electrician, which wasn't a good enough job, according to Clarnell. Eddie, too, was quoted as saying that, and this is a really nice thing that you want your spouse to say about you, suicide missions in wartime and the atomic bomb testings were nothing compared to living with Clarnell, and that she affected him more than 396 days and nights of fighting on the front did.
Oh!
Jesus.
So, yeah, she wasn't very pleasant. Not only was Clarnell unimpressed with Eddie II's job, she also expressed a great deal of rage at his interactions with his children. She was furious that he wouldn't beat Eddie 3, and I bet she was probably just angry over that episiotomy. And he was overprotective of him, as in the dad was, whilst being too strict on the girls, which is interesting, as apparently when Susan was 10 years old, she pushed the then 4-year-old Eddie 3 in front of a moving train. And on another occasion, she pushed him in the deep end of the pool, knowing he couldn't swim, and he nearly drowned.
Hang on, if she pushed him in front of a moving train...
He didn't die. I don't know how.
Did he get hit by it?
I don't know. I'm assuming not.
I'm going to say
maybe
no.
Because he was 4, he just went under it.
He went under it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's reasonable to think that maybe Ed too had good reason to want to protect his son and crack down on his little princesses. However, Eddie 3 displayed total red flag behaviours from a young age, possibly as a result of the abuse that he was receiving. When his sister broke his toy gun, he decapitated her doll. And I think we covered this in an early episode last week about my sister hanging Barbies from a lemon tree.
Although I don't know that Barbies is necessarily as serious, because, you could just pull their heads off.
Well, that's what he did. He popped the head off and he kind of enjoyed it. But I'm also pretty sure that Hub did pull their heads off as well and cut their hair. Which was annoying because the hair doesn't grow back.
Yeah, no, that's not, because you can't just pop the head back on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He and his sisters played really fun childhood games like Gas Chamber and Electric Chair.
What a hoot.
They were. And at one point, whilst cleaning a gun when he was young, he shot the wall behind his sister Ellen, and his only response was to go back to cleaning it, calmly saying, "Oh, that was an accident," nothing. In 1957, Eddie, too, the dad, had decided enough was enough, as Clarnell had become addicted to alcohol and was constantly emasculating and abusing him, so he left. With his father out of the picture, an already abusive Clarnell turned all her fury and hate on Eddie 3. Apart from saying awful things, not allowing him to do anything and treating him appallingly, she also locked Ed in a rat-infested, pitch-black basement that could only be accessed by pulling the heavy kitchen table away from the trapdoor every night for 8 months. This was because she decided that she feared that Edmund would hurt or rape his sisters at age 10.
Oh, hang on. Chicken and egg. Was he that bad?
I don't know. Nature, nurture.
Oh, yeah. Like, was she legitimate? Yeah, was that real?
Don't know.
Oh, my God.
Oh, messed up.
And look, there's nothing much on whether her fears of incest were founded, but I did read one account that people thought was a bit dodgy that said that Eddie III's sister Susan had lured him into her bed when he was 8 and she was 14. But Ed III, who's a real chatty Cathy and still alive, which I'll get onto later, has never said anything to support this. And he likes to talk, so I'm sure he would have said something.
So that's not him, though, jumping on his sister. That's his sister luring him in,
right.
isn't it? Yeah, right.
Yes,
so it's probably unlikely then that there was that real threat.
I think it's probably unlikely, and I think she just hated her son and wanted to punish him, and because she saw he was very physically like his father, and she hated her husband, So I think there was a lot of kind of taking it out on the poor boy.
Oh, what a love!
She also mocked his large size. He was already much taller than other kids, like much taller. He was 6'6" by his mid-teens.
Whoa!
Wow,
he was huge. You said before about 8 foot. Well, he's pretty big guy.
How good is it that, height's obviously determined by genes and she's mocking him for his height?
For being huge. And she's 6 foot tall herself anyway.
She's a mole.
She bagged him out to his father, who he adored, saying he was a real weirdo, and held the position that should she show him any affection, she'd turn him gay. Because that's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what happens to us.
Yeah.
Mummy's boys.
Yeah, and as he was just like his father, as I said, no woman would ever love him. Now, not to say that I experienced anything like that, but I do remember my mum making me a dress and fitting it on me and saying, "God, you're huge." And I can say it did deeply affect me. Years later, she said she meant tall, but I know that she meant fat.
Was that the one time your mum said something nasty to you?
No, but no, there was many times. And yes, I didn't turn into a serial killer, but also she didn't lock me in a basement for 8 months.
True.
And she wasn't physically
She didn't finish the
abusive.
job.
No, that's right. But anyway, just let it be a lesson to us all about how impressionable our kids are.
Carla?
Yeah.
School holidays are coming up. Just in case you were considering locking the kids in the basement.
Oh, if we had one, yes, I know.
Anyway, when Eddie II discovered that Clarnell had been locking Eddie III in the basement, he threatened to call the authorities on her. There's no record that he did.
But didn't. Yeah.
Well, there's no record that he did.
Why would you even threaten it? Why wouldn't you just do it?
Yeah. At this time, Eddie III was about 10 years old, and after a few years of gateway behaviour pulling the wings off bugs, he buried the family cat alive, and after it had died, dug it up, decapitated it, and put its head on a stake. As you do.
What?
Oh, yuck.
Yeah. At age 13, the next family cat, and one must ask oneself why you had another cat after this, minding its own business having a nap, was seized by Eddie, who sliced the top of its head off.
Oh, I don't think I'm going to cope with this. Yep.
This is one of the worst bits. As it convulsed, he then stabbed it to death to ensure it didn't suffer and buried bits of it in the garden, but kept other parts in his closet until his mother found them.
So he chopped
And
it up
maybe
as
she
well.
had a point when she called him a real weirdo.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm willing to go he's a real weirdo.
That's all right. Swanny's now put her
I'm
headset
back.
back on. She had to
I
do a bit of
couldn't
self
Preservation.
editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did he chop it up too?
Oh,
Yes. After it
Sorry,
died,
Swanny, I should have warned you.
after
Oops.
it died, he mutilated its corpse and he kept bits of it in his closet for no apparent reason.
Oh, just for the smell, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't pleasant.
Ugh.
In 1961, Eddie II and Clarnell officially divorced, and Eddie II remarried an incredibly beautiful German immigrant named Elfriede, I think you'd say. Elfriede.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Eddie III wanted to live with them in LA, but Elfriede thought he was totally whack and complained about the way he looked at her and his hulking figure.
That's
So
fair too.
he was sent back to his lovely mother, Clarnell. She was weirded out by him. She also had a son of her own,
Yeah.
and kind of what plays into the story is the father was quite happy to pay for this stepson and dote on the stepson and, neglected Edmund,
Ed III.
basically. Yeah. But not one to be put off, he ran away back to LA to live with his father. But alas, Freddie was having none of it, and so his father took him to visit Eddie One, the other one, the first of the dynasty. I know, I told you, Carla.
New character.
And Granny Maud. Eddie One and Granny Maud in a remote farm in California.
Hey, thank you for using numbers because I would have got very confused by now, but it all just kind of makes sense. Well done.
1, 2, and 3. Yep. At the conclusion of that visit, Eddie 3 was told he was to stay with his grandparents, as in live with, which must have been a real rejection for him, to be honest, because Eddie 2, who he adored and who was now being daddy to Elfriedy's child, Gilbert, just said, can't afford you, you have to stay there.
Oh.
At Eddie 1 and Maud's house, Ed 3 found that he liked his grandfather. He was all right, but he hated his grandmother. Maud was another strong woman who, according to Eddie 3 himself, spent her time berating him, not letting him have any friends or fun. Eddie 1, the granddad, tried to help the young Ed, he was about 15 at this time, teaching him to hunt and fish and rewarding him for the animals he killed, as this was considered manly pursuits.
Read between the lines, mate.
Yes, unfortunately, teaching Eddie 3 how to shoot and giving him access to firearms was probably not the best idea.
No wonder he loved him, though.
Oh, yeah. He loved his father first and foremost, and
Eddie 1, I want to kill something. Oh, well, come on then, Eddie 3.
Go kill a gopher, and I'll give you some money for it.
Stomp its head real good.
His grandmother, noticing the looks of hatred Eddie 3 gave her on occasion, by his account, she was pretty nasty to him, so who knows, would even take firearms out of the house so he wouldn't touch them, and had his grandfather lock them up to keep them safe. One morning in August 1964, when Eddie 1 had gone into town to run some errands and Granny Maud was sitting at the kitchen table working on a Story for Boys magazine, which I think was ironic, Eddie was helping her. When Maud told him off for staring at her, he took a gun, called his dog, and went to leave. She told him not to kill any birds, but he must have misheard her because he then turned around and shot her in the head and twice in the back, killing her.
No.
He then wrapped a towel around her head and dragged her body into the bedroom.
Uh-oh.
Jesus.
No, he just thought about it.
That just kind of justifies all of her fear and behaviour up to that point, doesn't it?
Or she escalated it, one or the other. So I know what you're saying, but also had he found a caring and stable household. The thing that's really interesting is apparently the grandparents had actually been telling people that he was settling in well. And this is all his account, of course, because Maud's not alive. So we don't really know.
Mistreat him? I haven't heard anything about her mistreating him.
According to him, a bit. You know, she was nasty to him. She picked on him. She wouldn't let him do anything. He wasn't allowed to leave the farm. And she was really funny about him.
I'm not going to go with his view on that.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm pointing it out.
Yeah.
When his grandfather returned, Eddie 3 didn't want him to be distressed that his wife of many years was dead. So he walked up to Eddie 1, who said hello, and turned back to the car, and Eddie 3 shot him dead.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, because he hasn't mistreated me and he has been good to me, but he's still got to go.
Oh, but I
don't want him to seem sad about Nana.
Yeah, I don't want him to.
Right.
I'd rather he be dead.
That's right, yeah. He then dragged his body into the shed and cleaned up the scene a bit. Now, what do you think he did next?
Went shopping.
No, just hung out. Nothing.
Had a beer. And I had an Uncle Doug.
No.
Don't know then, I'm out.
He called his mummy, of course.
What?
He rang his mum and he said, I've just killed the grandparents.
Oh, he fessed up?
Yeah, he rang his mum and said, I've just killed the grandparents. What should I do? And she said, call the police and wait for them, tell them what you've done and wait for them to show up. She didn't even call the police herself.
And
she told him to call the police.
And of course he didn't.
No, he did.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. So the police showed up, found the scene, and at first he said it was an accident, but in very little time he admitted to the police that he just wanted to see what it would feel like to shoot Grandma.
Yeah, I accidentally shot her in the head and twice in the back.
Yeah.
That's not going to fly.
I just wanted to see what it would feel like to shoot Grandma.
Uh-oh.
Said no one ever.
That's right. And that is the story of Edmund Kemper III. No, just kidding.
I feel like that's the story of Edmund Kemper the First.
Yeah, it is a bit, yeah.
So I take it that he quite liked the feeling from where we're about to go.
Yeah.
Just buckle your seatbelt in, doll.
I think it's fair to say that he had some urges, and possibly his killing of Grandma was, apparently he contemplated having sex with her body after he killed her.
With his grandma's body?
Yeah, he didn't do it, but he did think about it. So I think we're there's a kind of thought process that's playing out.
Well, he did think about what it would be like to kill his grandma, and he followed through on that. So
yeah, I think in that moment he just sort of snapped a bit, kind of thing. It wasn't the Bernie moment, but it was just like, right, that's it. And he'd been thinking about killing her for weeks. It wasn't a spur of the moment thing. It had been building up in him.
But he hadn't been thinking of
her.
sleeping with her dead body for weeks, so he decided
No, I
not
don't
to.
know about that bit. Yes.
Yeah,
no,
right.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm going to pretty much just call him Eddie now because I think Eddie 1 and Eddie 2 are mostly out of the picture.
Okay.
Ed or Eddie. Eddie spent the next 6 years at the Atascadero State Hospital as a criminally insane juvenile. While there, the
Well
exceptionally
diagnosed,
bright,
I feel like.
well, interesting because I don't really go on about it, but they diagnosed him multiple times. And I think in the first instance, they said he had schizophrenia and then they said, no, he didn't. So it's quite interesting. But remember, it's 1964. So, psychiatry and psychology haven't really advanced as much as they have now. So anyway, while he was there, the exceptionally bright, with an IQ of 145, Eddie postulated that if you refrain from telling the psychologist what you really think, that you might get out one day. In fact, he later described fantasies he had while at Atascadero. He said his final fantasy was, I killed someone, cut them up and ate them, and I kept the head on a shelf and talked to it. I said the same things I would have said had she been alive, in love with me, had she been caring of me. Interesting, he said I killed someone, but actually then he's describing a woman.
Yeah.
It's a woman every time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But did you say that was a fantasy, not a...
It's a fantasy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But the whole time, right, so he's got 5 years, I think, or 6 years that he's in this psychiatric home, and he's thinking the whole time and having these fantasies about killing women, cutting their heads off and talking to them like they love him.
But not telling the psychiatrist.
Oh, no, because he's so smart. Like, he's smart enough to know that if I tell them that, they won't let me out. Correct, right? Asked if he ever told, to that point, anyone at Atascadero about the fantasies, Kemper replied, no, I'd never get out if they told the psychiatrist I was having fantasies of sex with dead bodies and in some cases eating them.
I'm not an
I would
idiot.
have never got out, ever.
Oh, but also they're not concerned about the condition he might have, just concerned about his freedom so he can go and do it more. Like, it's not like he's sitting there going, God, I'm traumatized by what I do and I need help. He's going, I'm fine, let me out. I can go and have some fun out there.
At this point in time, I don't see any evidence that there's any remorse happening here.
Yeah. No. Not even any concern that he might do it again. Just game on, get me out of here.
But he was quite right.
I'm a serial killer, get me out of here.
Yeah.
I like it.
Is that our new TV show?
Well, didn't I have to get in touch with Simon Kale about something from another episode recently? I have to go back to him again.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was Factor X.
Factor X, yeah.
Maybe it's not. I know that he doesn't look after I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here, but you know what I mean. Whoever.
I do. You need to find the right producer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, Eddie was quite right about, if I tell them, they won't let me out.
Eddie was not quite right by the sounds of it.
Totally NQR. Yeah. But he was a model patient.
Ugh.
I heard that before.
Was he in the junior league?
Did he find God?
Oh, hang on, Swanny, you're going to love it. No, he wasn't really religious, but you're going to love this next bit. So good, in fact, that they trained him how to do psychiatric tests on other inmates, which of course gave him an understanding of what they were looking for to determine whether a person was dangerous or sane.
Oh, for God's sake.
That was well advised.
Yep, and he also became a member of the JCs.
Oh, no,
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, now I'm not saying 2 serial killers who are in the JCs makes a pattern, but it is interesting.
It is very interesting.
While in Atascadero...
I wonder if they have, alumni. They've got like a little subsection for serial killers. Oh, God. Notable alum.
Yeah, so he claimed while he was in Atascadero to have developed some new tests and some new scales on the Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory, specifically an overt hostility scale, during his work with the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist saw him as a poster boy of rehabilitation, and he was released into the care.
Oh,
he was released into the care of his loving mother in 1969.
No.
So how much was he at this point, Schmidty? 69?
21.
This is the second story where someone was the poster boy of rehabilitation. Remember old mate from
Oh, mate.
Hotel Cecil, who was from Austria.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. From the cafe set or whatever
wow.
else in Vienna.
What did I call it?
Yeah,
Literary
that's right.
something. I can't. Literary Monster or something. I can't remember. Yes, that one.
Oh, yeah, Literary Monster came out today.
Yes, there you go.
And I thought, I wonder what that one's about.
Great.
Sorry, back to the story.
Yeah, no. So look, he appeared to be perfectly fine, and in November 1972 was considered totally rehabilitated by his psychiatrist, who supported having his juvenile records permanently expunged.
Come on.
The last report from his probation psychiatrist read, "If I were to see this patient without having any history available or getting any history from him, I would think that we're dealing with a very well-adjusted young man who had initiative, intelligence, and who was free of any psychiatric illnesses. It is my opinion that he has made a very excellent response to the years of treatment and rehabilitation, and I would see no psychiatric reason to consider him to be of any danger to himself or any member of society. And since it may allow him more freedom as an adult to develop his potential, I would consider it reasonable to have a permanent expunction of his juvenile records." Now, perhaps they might not have said that had they known that whilst testing sex offenders back in a Tuscadero, which always makes me think of, is it Pinky
Tuscadero. And
Yeah.
Leather Tuscadero, I think, was in Fonzie.
Oh,
Yeah, well, Pinky was.
right.
Pinky was his girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know.
Anyway, sorry. So
Yeah,
while he was
Google it
in
now.
Pinky Tuscadero Hospital, he'd learned a lot. For example, they told him that to avoid leaving witnesses, it was best to kill a woman after raping her. And here's the best bit.
What?
Or that at the time of his first interview with the psychiatrist who was signing him off as sane, he had the head of one of his victims in his car. But I'll come to that in a moment.
Like a basketball?
Yeah.
Or was it in the car? Like it was in the boot rolling around?
Like a head.
Yeah,
No,
but
I
like
think
if you
it's in a
chucked...
bag. I think he likes to keep things
Wasn't
in a
like... It didn't have the seatbelt holding it in
bag. No,
to the
he
passenger
didn't.
seat.
No. God, no.
Too far?
A little, yeah.
Sorry.
So while living with his mother, Eddie went to community college, which he had to for his parole requirements, and he intended to become a police officer. Cool.
He was going to become a police officer
Absolutely.
so he could investigate his own crimes?
No, he just really loved it. He was big on policing and stuff.
When he talks about this period of his life, did he think he was sort of going to go on the straight and narrow, or did he think that he was going to be doing stuff and not get caught, or is it not really sort of any sort of insight into where his head was at? Like, I mean, did he think it was going to be a life of crime or not?
No, I don't think he was thinking a life of crime. He commits a series of crimes which he didn't intend to get caught for.
Okay.
But later he sort of talks about how as it escalates, he knows it's all too...
It's gone too far.
One might say killing your grandparents has gone too far already, but he kind of gets to a point where he's like, this is really going too far, which is much further than most of us would go. But anyway, only because he
He's
was an
already
absolute
done
giant. Yeah, that's right. Because he was an absolute giant, and here we go, at 6'9" tall, he was too big to be a policeman, and he got rejected.
Oh, right.
Why is that?
Because they used to have height restrictions.
They didn't
to
have
sit in the car.
uniforms that
Made a
fitted.
move.
No,
Oh,
I
the
think it's
car
sitting in the
height.
car.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. However, he became mates with some of the local Santa Cruz police officers and would hang out with them at a bar called the Jury Room. It sounds like our kind of place. And he called himself a friendly nuisance. He did a few menial jobs, but then he hit the jackpot working for the State of California Division of Highways. At the same time, he and his mother fought constantly, having screaming matches that the neighbours often heard. They fought over everything. So he was back living with his mother at this point because after the parole,
She's
he'd
mad
been
to
released.
push him, jeepers.
From everything I can gather, he was kind of really massively browbeaten by her.
Yeah,
So he might have shouted back at her,
yeah,
but he was scared of his mother.
yeah.
And he seemed to hate her but want her affection, want her approval.
Yes.
It was a really sick codependent kind of relationship.
And did he take his anger and frustration out on everyone else then? Is that the...
Yes, pretty much. Yep. Nicely summed up. Okay, so in his own words, my mother and I started right in on horrendous battles, just horrible battles, violent and vicious. I've never been in such a vicious verbal battle with anyone. It would go to fists with a man, but this was my mother, and I couldn't stand the thought of my mother and I doing these things. She insisted on it, and just over stupid things. I remember one roof raiser was over whether I should have my teeth cleaned.
Well, it sounds like my house, if I'm perfectly honest. There's plenty of good phrases around here. I'm starting to feel triggered by this, but for all the wrong reasons. I'm starting to think, all you had to do was brush your teeth, mate.
Hey,
I did ask you 3 or 4 times before I left the house, and I said I'd be back in an hour, and you had to have that and have a shower and have your bed made. That's all I asked, and I've turned up, and you're still in your pajamas, and you haven't brushed your teeth, and the bed's not made.
So,
Anyway,
Carla,
I digress.
just between us, we won't tell anyone else.
Yes.
If one of your kids did end up being a serial killer as a result of your parenting, which one would it be?
That's a good question. It could be any of them because they've all
I can't believe you immediately go to answer.
They've all had the same terrible parenting from me. So it could be any of them.
Open
Any of the
slather.
three. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
right.
be able to pick one. No, they've all experienced
They're perfectly
mother of the year.
well-adjusted young men, said the psychiatrist. Anyway.
Yeah. Model citizens.
Yeah. Eventually, he saved up enough money to move out with a friend in Almeida, but his mother constantly called him and showed up unannounced. For two
She
people
can't
who
help
hated
herself.
each other,
Yeah.
that's right. They really couldn't stay away from one another. On and off, he'd run out of money and moved back with Mum. Then one day, he met a nice young girl and started dating her. It was in that year that he was hit by a car whilst riding a motorbike and received a $15,000 compensation, which in today's money is about $92,000.
Oh, what did
And
he
he
do? Break a
upgraded-
nail or something? That's not a lot.
No, broke his arm really badly. His arm was, I don't know, crushed, but quite badly damaged. And it was the car driver's fault, not his fault.
Did he try
So
to
he
sue
sued them in
for
a civil-
loss of future killings because he wouldn't be able to hold a knife?
No.
With that hand?
That did, as it turns out, that isn't a problem that he ended up having.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, good to hear.
So
Also not good to hear.
he upgraded. So because he had that money, he upgraded to a 1969 Ford Galaxy. And this was a useful car for picking up hitchhikers, which he did a lot of, saying he picked up at least 1,000. Well, actually, I've read 150 to 1,000, but without incident. He
That's
just
a
picked
lot
them
of
up and dropped
variance,
them off.
isn't it?
I
Yeah.
thought so too, yes. But he also found the car useful for storing supplies, such as plastic bags, knives,
Duct tape.
blankets, and handcuffs.
Oy.
You know, the usual items you find in a boot.
Yeah.
As opposed to like full of old Coles bags and Woolies bags and things that you can put the groceries
Yeah.
in.
And a pair of
Exactly.
socks and stuff that's fallen out of
Yeah.
your bag and you can't be bothered taking it out again. The odd tool. I've got
Oh, there are no tools in my car.
some, well, because I take it up to Ilden, so
I
feel
like
like-
the car. So yeah.
I feel like Schmidty, you'd have the odd dead tool in your boot.
Absolutely.
Well, I was trying to describe what it is. It's
A
no, it's not
hacksaw.
a dead tool. No, it's not even that. It's a
drill?
It is a saw.
Oh, I just
It's-
meant some bloke who was a tool that you had to
I know
murder
what
and
you
shove
meant.
in the
I
boot.
knew what you meant. Yes, I knew what you meant.
Make
No,
soap out of him or
it's-
something.
You know, a multi-tool. I've got a packet of multi-tool blades in the car that I've yet to be able to
Blades.
take out of the
Oh,
car
exactly.
and put them. No. If you know what a multi-tool is, Carla,
Well, maybe
you're
I
not going to
don't.
go around killing someone with a multi-tool.
I mean-
Correct me if I'm wrong,
I don't know what a
Woo, but
You're
multi-tool
right.
is.
yeah,
I met
What's a
someone the other.
multi-tool?
little vibrating thing
Yeah.
that like
Zzz.
cuts at strange angles.
Is that what
and
that
stuff.
noise was when we caught up last time? I met someone the other day who said they carry a pocket knife with them all the time. I'm like,
Oh,
what do you
that's not
even
usual.
do with it? And he goes, oh, I use it most days. Like, yeah, but
Oh, actually,
what would
come
you
to
do
think
with
of
it?
I do carry a knife.
Oh,
You're
God. Yeah, well, we're surprised.
No, I haven't got my handbag, but it's a multi-tool set. So it's like a Swiss Army knife.
Like a
but it's-
vibrator.
No, that doesn't fit in my bag. It's so big.
That's why it just gets in a duffel bag.
Yeah, that's what's really in the boot.
It's its own bag, like a blow-up mattress or something like that. It's got its own
Absolutely,
bag.
absolutely, yes. No. It's just one of those. Like I've forgotten all about it until you mentioned it. I think I bought it from Super Cheap or something. And it's like a keyring thing, but it's useful. It's got like a little tiny Phillips head screwdriver and stuff on it.
How
Yeah.
often do you use it?
Oh, rarely. But then every
Yeah.
now and then when I need
That's
to, I'm
the
like,
right
hang on,
answer.
I've got that
I've got
thing.
that in there.
It's like me having a
Anyway.
bottle opener on my keyring. I
Yeah,
mean, rarely
I've got one
use
of
it,
those
but
too.
it's nice to have it there when you need it.
You'd be amazed at how often I've used that, though. I put it on there thinking it was a piece of merchandise, and I put it on there thinking, what a waste of money.
Where did
These
you
are
put it on
stupid.
though, sorry?
On my keyring.
All right.
And it's, like one that pushes
Yeah.
up.
God,
They-
you must walk around look like you own a workshop or something.
No, what-
Fucking everything jangling and
Yeah.
nuts.
No wonder you did your hip.
I know. See, I've already got it. It's like, oh my God, that woman must be a shop owner. Do you know what I mean? Like she's locking something up. It's like an old style, you know.
Or a prison guard.
Yeah, yes, yeah. It's got a big loop on it, do you reckon?
Yeah. And she puts it on her hip, and that's what's damaged her hip over all these years.
She must be important. She's got lots of things to lock and unlock. And does it jangle a lot like jewellery? Like, you know, oh my God.
Oh, my God.
The biggest, I know, and now I've got new house keys. I'm actually going to have to cull some of these
That's
off.
huge.
There you go. That's the bottle opener.
Yeah, I'm a fan of
And
them.
then I've got...
How big's your handbag to carry that? Oh my God, Schmidty, it's huge.
It's like I'm a jailer, isn't it?
It's like you're
I'm a jailer with all the
He's
keys.
like, oh, can you hear me? Here I come. I'm important. Jingle, jangle,
It's so
jangle.
heavy. It's so
I don't
heavy.
doubt it. I could not
That's
cope.
good though, because when you drop them, you hear it, so you know that you've dropped them. Anyway, enough about my keys and what's in my handbags or handbag.
I'm not sure it is enough, but let's keep going.
As I said, he's driving around, he's picking up hitchhikers, all without any great, incident, until his little zapples then started.
What?
That's his own name for his homicidal sexual urges.
Oh.
My little zapples.
Oh, Zappel.
How odd is that expression?
It doesn't sound
isn't it?
menacing enough for homicidal
Exactly.
sexual urges.
Absolutely. It sounds so benign.
That's
but
what
he's
it's supposed
actually
to be.
talking about thinking about brutally.
Oh, don't
killing
mind me. I'm
women.
just having a little Zappel.
I'm covered in blood and semen. I'm
Yeah.
just having a little zapple.
Oh God.
It's like a little baby erection or something that he gets a little triple. Don't mind me.
Oh, zapple.
It's like a bit zappy.
I'm just going to have to go and lie down for a moment.
I've come over all Zappel.
And that's also funny until I get onto this next section.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Now, I am really going to quote Wikipedia almost word for word at this point on the murders in particular.
Yeah.
Because I decided that pragmatic and factual tone of the way they put it is the most fitting to describe this. And it was easier for me. You know, like colour, sometimes we talk about, Wikipedia is a bit dry and you've got to have colour.
Yeah.
You don't need any more colour in this, right?
Yeah.
So on May the 7th, 1972, Ed was driving in Berkeley when he picked up two 18-year-old hitchhiking students from Fresno State University, Marianne Pesce and Anita Mary Lucchesa, with the pretense of taking them to Stanford University. After driving for an hour, he managed to reach a secluded wooded area near Alameda, with which he was familiar from his work at the highway department, without alerting his passengers that he had changed directions from where they wanted to go. It was there that he handcuffed Pesce and locked Lucchesa in the trunk, then stabbed and strangled Pesce to death, subsequently then killing Lucchesa in a similar manner. Ed later confessed that while handcuffing Pesce, he brushed the back of his hand against one of her breasts and it embarrassed him, adding that he said, "Whoops, I'm sorry," or something like that, after grazing her breast, despite murdering her minutes later.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. What I did mean to do... God.
Can you imagine being Lucchesa in the boot, hearing your friend being murdered?
No.
Just don't get that shit.
Yeah. Ed put both of the women's bodies in the trunk of his Ford Galaxy and returned to his apartment. He was stopped on the way by a police officer for having a broken tail light, but the officer didn't detect the corpses in the car. Well, he wouldn't,
Yeah.
Although I would have thought if he stabbed them or
There'd
whatever,
be blood
he was
somewhere, wouldn't there?
Yeah, but I think he was preparing, so it's quite possible he changed, whatever. Anyway, his roommate wasn't home at the time, so he took the bodies into his apartment where he photographed and had sexual intercourse with the naked corpses before dismembering them. He then...
What are you doing in there? Oh, nothing.
Yeah. I'm zappling.
What kind of you come
okay,
to
hun.
watch Happy Days? Yeah, I won't be a moment. Oh, God.
He then put the body parts into plastic bags, which he later abandoned near Loma Prieta Mountain.
Wouldn't you be able to smell that, or would you not?
Yeah, probably.
When you say abandoned, is it better to say dumped? I feel like...
I'm just quoting Wikipedia.
I know. I just feel like abandoned sounds less
Civilized.
deliberate and premeditated and homicidal.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Before disposing of Pesce and Lucchesa's severed heads in a ravine, Ed engaged in uromartio with both of them.
I don't even know what that is, and I don't want to know. Please
I
don't
could
tell
guess.
us. Yeah, I know, right?
He did it with most of his victims.
Oh,
yeah.
really? Did you say it has a Japanese name? Is that what? No.
No, it's actually Latin. Uromartio. It's basically oral rape. It's described, because I looked it up, it's described as raping someone orally to create or force them to have a gag reflex or vomit. But of course, these women are dead and these are decapitated heads. But effectively, he raped their mouths, and throats. On the evening of September 14, 1972, Ed picked up a 15-year-old dance student named Aiko Ku, who had decided to hitchhike to a dance class after missing her bus. He again drove to a remote area where he pulled a gun on Ku before accidentally locking himself out of his car. Somehow, he managed to convince poor little Ku to let him back inside, despite the fact that the gun was still in the car. Back inside the car, he proceeded to choke her unconscious, rape her, and kill her. And I think this is one that doesn't talk about it here, but he made a comment about, I think it's about Aiko, that I think he stabbed her or something, and he talked about her leaking, the blood leaking or something like that. So he had these, and earlier about
I actually feel quite ill during this story, Schmidty. I just wanted you to know that.
I told you, it's a bad one, right? Yeah. I felt ill through some of yours.
Yeah, well, you know it's about me
now. Fair. All right. So he subsequently packed her body into the trunk of his car and went to a nearby bar to have a few drinks. Then he returned to his apartment. He later confessed that after exiting the bar, he opened the trunk of his car, admiring his catch like a fisherman. Back at his apartment, he had sexual intercourse with the corpse, then dismembered and disposed of the remains in a similar manner as his previous two victims. Ku's mother called the police to report the disappearance of her daughter and put up hundreds of flyers asking for information, but she didn't receive any responses regarding her daughter's location or status. On January the 7th, 1973, Ed, who had moved back in with his mother at this point, was driving around Calibro College campus when he picked up 18-year-old student Cynthia Ann or Cindy Charles. He drove to a wooded area and fatally shot her with a .22 caliber pistol. He then placed her body in the trunk of his car and drove to his mother's house, where he kept her body hidden in a closet in his room overnight. When his mother left for work the next morning, he had sexual intercourse with and removed. And actually, Wikipedia is wrong. It's not sexual intercourse; it's rape. He raped this woman and removed the bullet from her corpse, then dismembered and decapitated her in his mother's bathtub.
Oh God! Do these people have a cleaning lady? Honestly, the mess that this is generating. I don't understand how you. I got spaghetti bolognese. It's a fucking problem. I'm talking about that.
I think that's comparable.
Oh my goodness!
I just can't imagine the mess he's making in the car and the house and the bodies in. He must be very.
I also
meticulous at keeping it clean. I just don't know how.
Stench.
I know
that boot must reek.
What about the bed on which, or I presume it's a bed where he's raping the corpses? Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a trail of. So she was leaking in the car and all that. Yeah. There's all these things. There's all of this stuff that it's messy business. It's not before you get to dismembering or something else. When you've murdered someone that way, there are things that happen to their bodies or have happened to their bodies through what you've done. There's trails of things fluid and gross.
I feel like if you're a unicorn and you jump around and fly around and leave glitter everywhere, that's what Zappeling should be, not when you're a homicidal, sexual urges, when you're having homicidal sexual and leaving fluids everywhere. And,
you know what I mean?
That's not Zapple. That's just...
It's terribly messy business before you get to sort of chopping someone up even. If you're dragging bodies around and stuff like that, I can't deal with
honestly,
this.
I feel ill.
I know.
So Ed kept Charles' severed head for several days, regularly engaging in uramatio with it, then buried it in his mother's garden facing upward toward her bedroom. He later said that he did this because his mother always wanted people to look up to him. He just discarded the rest of Charles' remains by throwing them off a cliff. Over the course of the following few weeks, all except Charles' head and right hand were discovered and pieced together like a macabre jigsaw puzzle. A pathologist determined that Charles had been cut into pieces with a power saw, but I bet it wasn't a multi-tool.
No.
On
I hope
February
it wasn't
5th,
a multi-tool.
Schmidty, at the time of these crimes, do we have a sense of, are people aware of it? Is there a panic? Do they know that, or is it just sort of going under the radar kind of thing?
It does heat up in that there's clearly a pattern that these are all college girls, co-eds. He's actually referred to as the co-ed killer later.
Okay.
And so, yes, what happens is that the colleges and police and that urged girls not to get into cars with anyone who doesn't have a college sticker on their car.
Uh-huh.
On February 5, 1973, after a heated argument with his mother, Ed left his house in search of possible victims. With heightened suspicion of a serial killer preying on hitchhikers in the Santa Cruz area, students had been advised to accept rides only from cars with university stickers on them. Ed was able to obtain a sticker as his mother worked at UCSC. She was an administration assistant, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He encountered 23-year-old Rosalind Heather Thorpe and 20-year-old Allison Lou.
Can I just ask, sorry, what was his reason for wanting a sticker that it made his mum give him one?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Maybe he said, I can drive you to work and, use the sticker to get in or something.
Mum, the screws are clamping down on me.
I won't be able to go and pick up
Yeah, if you don't
have a
give
sticker.
me one, I won't get caught. I'll get caught.
So he picked up Rosalind and Alice on the UCSC campus. According to Ed, Thorpe entered his car first, reassuring Lou to also enter.
Oh, bad reassurance.
He first fatally shot Thorpe and then Lou with his pistol and wrapped their bodies in blankets. He again brought his victims back to his mother's house. This time he beheaded them in his car in the street.
What?
I think in the driveway, yeah. And then he carried the headless corpses into his mother's house to have sexual intercourse, aka rape, with them. He then dismembered the bodies, removed the bullets to prevent identification, and discarded their remains the next morning. When questioned in an interview as to why he decapitated his victims, he explained the head trip fantasies were a bit like a trophy. The head is where everything's at. The brain, eyes, mouth. That's the person. I remember being told as a kid, you cut off the head and the body dies. The body is nothing after the head is cut off. Well, that's not quite true. There's a lot left in the girl's body without the head.
Oh, geez.
My next note was, I'm just checking in here. Are you okay?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, do we need a moment, but we just had one.
What?
So bad luck, I don't care.
What body count are we at, Schmidty?
6 girls at this point in time. And his grandparents.
Schmidty, is that how you are on Are You OK Day? Just want to check in to make sure you're all okay. Oh, you're not? Oh, well, you've already had a break, so we're just going to keep going.
Don't mind me.
Sorry, I'm just checking I'm right. It is 6 women at this point in time. And this is after, of course, he's killed his grandparents.
So it's 8.
8, yes. But he's not quite done yet. On the 20th of April, 1973, after coming home from a party, 52-year-old Clarnell awakened her son with her arrival. While sitting in her bed reading a book, she noticed Ed enter her room and said to him, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now. Ed replied, no, good night. He then went off to his own bed, where he lay there waiting for her to fall asleep. Then he went back into her room and bludgeoned her to death with a claw hammer and slit her throat with a penknife. Speaking of...
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, pocket
What
knife.
do you call it? Pocket knife, same difference, I guess. He then decapitated her and engaged in uramatio with her severed head. And then, unlike the other victims, he used it as a dartboard. Ed stated that he put her head...
You use it as a dart? Are you going to tell me?
Yes, he put her head on a shelf and screamed at it for an hour and threw darts at it, and ultimately smashed her face in. And this is really gross. He also cut out her tongue and larynx and put them in the garbage disposal. However, the garbage disposal could not break down the tough vocal cords and ejected the tissue back into the sink. Speaking of bolognese. That seemed appropriate, as much as she's bitched and screamed and yelled at me over so many years, Ed later said.
Yeah.
Ed hid his mother's corpse in a closet, he liked doing that by the look of it, and went to drink at a nearby bar. Upon his return, he invited his mother's best friend, and possibly her lover, 59-year-old Sarah Taylor, who they called Sally Hallett, over to the house to have dinner and watch a movie. Ed prepared for Miss Hallett's murder by distributing weapons around the apartment, but in the end, none of them would be necessary. Soon after the phone call, Miss Hallett arrived. I came up behind her and crooked my arm around her neck like this, Kemper said, bending up his powerful arm in front of himself at chin level. I squeezed and just lifted her off the floor. She just hung there, and for a moment I didn't realise she was dead. I'd broken her neck and her head was just wobbling around with the bones of her neck disconnected in the skin sac of her neck.
Oh, my God.
The
Oh, God. Oh.
The skin sac of her neck.
It's very
What a
hot
thing
in
to
here.
say.
I'm starting to feel a bit queasy.
Oh,
All right. Well, I'm
whoa.
done on the murdering, okay?
Oh, good. We're good for that.
thank God.
We're done.
I just got to try to let this vomit
Oh,
that's
it's just the
halfway
way
up my
he
neck
said,
go
and that's
back
his
down
words,
again.
Schmidty.
That's his words.
It's awful, isn't it?
Oh.
Later that night, Ed attempted to have intercourse with Miss Hallett's body, but I don't think he did. Initially, he said the murder was to create a cover story that his mother and Hallett had gone away together on a vacation. He subsequently put Hallett's corpse in a closet, obscured any outward signs of a disturbance, and left a note to the police. And this is hard to read, this one, just because it's weird, right? It read, approximately 5:15 a.m. Saturday. No need for her to suffer any more at the hands of this horrible murderous butcher. It was quick, asleep, the way I wanted it. Not sloppy and incomplete, gents. Just a lack of time. I got things to do. I think he's talking about his mother in that one. Anyway, so having done that, he went on the lam. Only no one was actually after him.
I was going to say, anyone? No.
No. So he drove around 1,000 miles and he had 3 guns and, loads and loads of rounds of ammo, believing that he was being chased, but no one had noticed anything. I guess it was a bit of a letdown. So when he arrived in Pueblo, he found a phone booth and called the police.
Where was that, in Mexico or somewhere?
Pueblo, it sounds like it. Yeah, because he's in California.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure.
Well, it's 1,000.
About 1,000 miles. So yeah, it probably is.
Did he walk 1,000 miles?
No, he drove it.
He's not a proclaimer.
Just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to
cut your head off.
to perform Iramatio.
So he confessed to the murders of his mother and Hallett, but his buddies didn't believe Big Ed, because that's what they used to call him. And they said, oh, yeah, whatever, call back later. So he waited a few hours, fully expecting the police to show up. And I think he was wanting like a showdown. I think he thought they're going to kill me.
Death by cop or something.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So he called again and he had to ask for someone he knew personally.
How many times do I have to tell you I'm killing people?
Exactly. He then confessed to killing Clarnell and Sally and again waited for the police to arrive to arrest him. When they finally did, he confessed to killing the other students. How anticlimactic do you reckon that was for him? Once it was arrested, it became apparent that he'd killed 8 people. So that's not including
his grandparents.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that nice fiance of his, that nice girl I was talking about very early on, she split, and who could blame her, right? And I don't know her name because it was actually withdrawn from the press. It wasn't, no one actually said who she was. And she was lucky. I mean, she was dating him. So talk about a really lucky escape there. Now, I have theories on why he turned himself in. And I think, for me, I feel it's obvious. If every crime was about killing his mother, over and over again. So these women that he was killing, he was really acting out his rage against his mother. Once she was dead, there was no more point to it. I believe that the reason he killed Sally was because she was really important to his mother. So it was like that extra kind of insult.
Tied it all up. Yeah.
He doesn't say that later, but I think there was something in that. He himself, however, says the original purpose was gone. It wasn't serving any physical or real emotional purpose anymore. It was just a pure waste of time. Emotionally, I couldn't handle it much longer. Toward the end there, I started feeling the folly of the whole damn thing.
Oh, and I could imagine the cleaning. I do feel for the man. I do.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well,
he's questioning himself at points, going, "Is this really worth it? That's such a mess."
Oh,
that's
the
right.
The folly of the whole damn thing.
The folly of it all.
That's right. And at the point of near exhaustion, near collapse, I just said, "To hell with it," and called it all off. What a guy. Of course, as I said, he did really like to talk about what he did and why, and given he never shut up about it, and he'd confessed to the killings, his defence tried to run an insanity plea. He even testified himself, saying something along the lines of the beast took over and he wasn't responsible for himself.
Yeah, because I spoke to all those people in the prison and they told me what they say.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. However, on the 8th of November in 1973, the 6-man, 6-woman jury deliberated for 5 hours before declaring Edmund Emile III sane and guilty on all counts.
Does that seem like a long time?
It does.
I mean,
sure.
You're probably sentencing someone to death, but 5 hours.
I don't know. Maybe they had a really good lunch and they were just like, we'll just string it out
lunch,
so we can get that
few
really
rosés.
good food. Yeah. He asked for the death penalty, requesting death by torture, which I don't think you can
They
actually
said
get.
What?
Death by torture?
What is that?
Death by irratio.
Irratio, yeah.
Why didn't someone just shove their cock down his mouth?
Well, you might want to hang on to that for,
you're
for
so
your
funny.
sentence. Yeah.
Oh, how
Anyway.
dare! How disgusting! What a terrible, terrible man.
Yeah. With a moratorium placed on capital punishment by the Supreme Court of California, he instead received 7 years to life for each count, with these terms to be served concurrently. And
7
was
years to life.
to life. Yeah.
What's with the 7 years bit?
I don't know. And was
Doesn't make
sentenced to the California Medical Facility in Vacaville.
Medical
on,
facility.
Yeah, remember we had another one, the Rochester Medical Facility, and that's a prison. So it's a prison. I don't know why they call them that, but yeah. Maybe it's because, when you move into a town and you don't really want to know that you live next to a prison, that they call it the medical facility.
Sucker,
right.
you bought the house next to the prison.
I don't know why. So he was locked up with other killers of the time, including Herbert Mullen and Charles Manson.
No
But
way.
he didn't think, he's, infamy, mate.
He's in the club.
Yeah, he didn't think much of them. He didn't like them much. He really disliked Mullen, who he described as just a cold-blooded killer, killing everybody he saw for no good reason.
Oh,
Yeah,
Is that right?
No strategy, no yes. Oh.
unlike myself.
Unlike him, who's got really
Yeah.
good reason. Yeah, give me strength. However, I was amused by Ed becoming a bully, given he'd been bullied by kids and never fought back when he was a kid. So he manipulated and intimidated Mullen. Ed said, Mullen had a habit of singing and bothering people when somebody tried to watch TV. So I threw water on him to shut him up. Then, when he was a good boy, I'd give him peanuts. Herbie liked peanuts. That was effective because pretty soon he asked permission to sing. That's called behaviour modification treatment. Which I think is funny and chilling at the same time.
Also, pay peanuts, get monkeys.
So he's been incarcerated since his sentence, rejecting parole hearings, although he was denied one in 2017, probably because he said this next bit at that parole hearing. At his 2017 parole hearing, Ed gave an alternate explanation as to why he murdered Sally Hallett. He said it was revenge for ruining his mother's holiday. The two women were supposed to go to Europe together for 4 weeks, but Hallett backed out at the last minute. Clarnell went on the trip by herself. At some point during the hearing, Kemper referred to Hallett as his mother's lover. But when my mother got back, she tried sharing these vacation moments with Sally, and Sally got very loud with her and rude and told her, I don't want to hear about that. I didn't even go on that vacation. Why are you bringing this up? So here I am at the house, having heard this from my mother, and she's frustrated, and I said, I'd like to know. I'd like you to share with me. So she went and got all of her travel logs and the papers and stuff from the places she went, and she started systematically sharing this stuff with me. And then all of a sudden, she stops and she looks at me in this strange way and says, I'm not going to let you pity me. And she just walked away from the whole thing. And I said, hey, I wanted to hear this stuff. I had told myself that if my mother ever dies over this stuff that I did, as in I think killing, Hallett's going with her. That's one trip she's not going to miss. She's not going to back off on that one. I swore an oath to it. I was angry at the time. I haven't sworn many oaths in my life, and every one that I have sworn I have followed through with.
Oh.
So poor old Sally didn't go on a holiday. Clarnell was pissy about it, so she gets herself her neck broken.
Yeah, I don't know any other outcome that could come about from that situation.
That's right. His next parole hearing is actually in 2024, and I do wonder what he'll say at that one if it happens. Ed himself has said he's a danger to the public and that he'd probably kill again if he could. Whilst doing time, he's recorded a ton of audiobooks for the blind, mastered the art of making ceramic mugs, and giving interviews to people, including the FBI agents who inspired Mindhunter.
Yes, I recall that.
Yeah. A model prisoner, of course, he's been allowed to work on projects with female officers and schedule psychiatric appointments for other prisoners, although the prosecutor is clear that no matter what a good boy he is not getting out. Sadly, Eddie had a stroke in 2015 and was declared medically disabled.
That's a good punishment.
He loves to talk and give interviews, and his interviews have contributed to the understanding of the mind of serial killers. FBI profiler John Douglas described Ed as among the brightest prison inmates he'd interviewed and capable of rare insight for a violent criminal. He further added that he personally liked Ed, referring to him as a friendly, open, sensitive, and having a good sense of humour. Well, we know that. Remember, he buried one of his victims face up so she could look up to his mother. He's hilarious.
Oh no, what a hoot.
Unsurprisingly, over the course of the last 60 years, Ed has been diagnosed with a whole series of disorders. However, the latest is antisocial, you think, narcissistic.
As opposed to all those other ones.
That's right, and schizotypal personality disorders. And if you don't believe that, I'm going to play you this excerpt from the 1991 interview he gave to French interviewer Stéphane Bourgoin, where he explains what a great guy he is that he didn't kill 2 more girls.
Hang on, if we do believe it, do we not have to hear it?
I think it's worth hearing his tone of voice and the way he speaks.
Right.
Now, just in case I can't include this in
you.
You're welcome. Just in case I can't include it in the audio when we actually release this for copyright reasons, you can find this on YouTube on the Serial Killer Minds channel, and it's called Serial Killer Ed Kemper About Controlling His Urges and Saving His Victims.
Saving his victims. What a flog.
Yep. What a flog indeed.
Didn't save anyone, mate.
Well, he does. He saves these 2 girls.
No, he doesn't. He just doesn't kill them. Don't think that's noble.
Okay, you ready?
And toward the end, when I picked those 2 girls up, and I said they were just like the first 2, like Marianne Passion and Anita Luchessa, who'd haunted me all this time, and now 2 more just like them get in the car. We drive up 13, and we get to this figure 8 cloverleaf interchange where it hits 580, and they want to go under the freeway, back up on, and head out this way. And out that way, I happen to know just a couple of miles down the road is Palomares Drive, where I took Anita Luchessa and Marianne Tesh and killed them. Mills College is back this way, toward downtown. They don't think so. They want to go this way. I'm saying, gee, you don't want to go that way, and I can't tell them why. You do not want to go that way. Mills College is this way. Well, no, we go there, and we know where it's. We live there, and we want to go. And as we're approaching this interchange, I'm saying, no, we need to go in the right lane, get up on the freeway and go downtown. You want to get in the left lane, go under, cross up, and that's going to be another step closer to you dying. Because even if I don't go all the way out to Palomares Road, up 580, if I stop where it starts to go out in the country and I get back on the freeway, that's where I used to work on the highways. That's one of the places where it's a cul-de-sac. You drive down there, it's a very quiet street, comes down up onto the freeway very sharply, and they're dead if these urges take over. And if I go that way, it's not encouraging me to stop. It's testing beyond where I want to test. We've already gone beyond that by them getting in the car because, geez, it's just like those first 2. I was actually scared to death. I was going to kill them. And by that point, I had killed all of the co-eds. It was 2 months after the last 2. And I'm seeing if I can pull out of it, like drinking or something or smoking. And at the point where we're bickering, if they'd started shrieking or banging on the windows, I'm busted. They're going to pull me over, someone's going to call a cop or something, and they're going to get me and probably bust me on these other cases on a fluke, and I'm trying to save their lives. I don't want them going that way because I know Mills College is this other way. They get scared shitless. Oh my God, we shouldn't have gotten this guy's car, and they're getting all puckered up and I said, just bear with me, be patient. If I'm wrong, we'll get on the turnoff, we'll go right back around, we'll take you out your way. But I know it's the next turnoff or the one past it this way, downtown. Trust me, please. And they're sitting like this, and they quit talking to me, and they're looking straight ahead. And I'm saying, oh, shit. Guns under the seat, it's all just, whoa. I get up on the freeway, 2 turnoffs, Mills College. In fact, the next one said Mills College, next exit, But they're not relaxing or nothing. I had refused to take them the way they wanted to go and pushed it the other way. That's what scared them. But they didn't know the irony of it was if I'd have gone along their way, I'd have probably said, yeah, well, I'll just follow on through and oops, we'll do it one more time.
That's
How
right.
do you oops human lives? I don't know those 2 young ladies, and I don't know where they are today, and I don't know that they remember that little incident. But when I drove them to Mills College, inside of Mills College, right to the building, to the dormitory, and they got out of that car and flew up those stairs, never even looked back, I'll bet they quit hitchhiking quite so casually after that. But you know what? I don't think they know to this day how close that came. And the irony of it is, just to shut them up and not have them freak out, I could have gone the other way. But by that time, then we're going back up that groove of what I had done already and what I was familiar with. See what I'm saying?
He's
How
repulsive.
spooky is that?
Oh, gosh.
That is awful.
But, like if he was not talking about his homicidal urges,
No.
if he was just someone that you met, and he's talking about Bridgerton or something, you just wouldn't think he's about to shoot you and cut your head off and rape your mouth.
No. Violently sort of.
But that's the problem.
Violate you.
That's why he's so frightening, I think.
Yeah.
Because it could just be, he literally could be anyone.
I'm a little bit disappointed in the detective. Was it a detective who said that he's likable and he considers him
FBI agent.
friend or whatever?
There's a scene in Mindhunter which I didn't remember when I was doing this, and I spoke to Tony about it because we watched it together, and he said he does remember this, and you probably will too. But when they come in and they in interview with him, one of the FBI agents, I think his name's Kessler, calls a guard, and the guards don't come, and the time goes on, and he starts to get nervous about the fact the guard hasn't shown up, and Ed says to him something like, "Oh, I could just twist your head right off, right now I could just kill you." And then there's sort of this half an hour standoff of Kessler trying desperately to not look frightened and say, well, I could have a gun on me. And he's like, you can't have a gun. They don't let you come in. He's like, I'm an FBI agent. I could do whatever I like, And this sort of thing goes on. And Kessler's literally bricking himself the whole time. And at first it's like, oh, no, it's just a changeover. They'll be here soon. And as the guard finally arrives and he goes to come out of the cell, Ed puts his hand on his shoulder and he says, I was only joking. And Kessler's like, to this day, I don't believe that he was. Like, he was well capable of killing me. Mind you, it wasn't his MO because he didn't like killing men. Like, his rage was towards women. But he was getting off on the terror. He was getting off on how frightened that agent was. And when I saw it on Mindhunter, I didn't appreciate, because it's a 2-minute scene. You can make a show, it's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But to imagine being in a room with a man that is capable and wouldn't think twice about killing you.
Yeah.
And there is no one there to back you up. If there's no longer a false sense of security, that must have been absolutely terrifying. Just a little bit, I suppose, to round off around the Kempers, as in the wider family. So Clarnell was married 3 times, but I couldn't be bothered talking about it. So suffice to say that she was dissatisfied with all the men in her life, and at the time Ed murdered her, she was divorced from all 3 of them. Susan, who's the older sister, has passed away, but Aileen or whatever her name is still alive and apparently visits her brother and tries to help him where she can. There is a lot more on Ed Kemper if you want to go down, if you want to look into it. He likes to chat. There's more interviews available. But it's a dark and deep and not nice rabbit hole to go down. All right, so to sentencing. And I think, Swanny, this is one of your wheelhouses when it comes to psychology and psychological nut punches. The psych is almost textbook in some ways of this case. What do you think?
I don't know. I need a moment.
Yeah, have a moment.
I don't know where I'm going to go. I just need to think before I speak.
How about I speak while you think?
You go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, this whole thing about how people know what he's done and still think that he's friendly and whatever. Like, I look at him talking like that and I go, you are a complete psychopath. The fact that you can talk like that as if it's some kind of story about your Sunday drive when you were going for a picnic, when you're actually talking about killing people potentially, and the fact that he almost sounds like he's holier than thou because he's trying to push them down.
Oh, no, it's totally, I saved them.
Yeah.
Like, if it weren't for me, they'd be dead. It's like,
and they'd be dead in a horrible way. Like, he's not apologetic about anything. That's where I'm struggling to, quite often when these crimes happen that we look at, something goes wrong or they're angry with somebody or something, as a result of something. But he goes to such great lengths to make them about as violent and really vicious. The opposite of, having no respect for someone, when you desecrate somebody, really. I think that's what I'm after. That's where I'm struggling to come up with a sentence.
Punishment.
Because when someone's that far off the scale for me, I don't understand how I could elicit a response in them that goes, wow, she really put me, not she, they put me in my place.
She taught me a lesson.
Yeah, well, what lesson would you teach someone who doesn't seem to have any sense of, as you say, it's not that he's an evil person who does certain things. It's a way that he presents himself as a very normal person who does these unbelievably outrageous crimes and yet still manages to present it as this is what I do. And he's not apologising except for the ones where he's saying they were very fortunate that, And lucky they wanted to go one way and not the other, or vice versa. I think it was the other way around.
What worries me, I mean, obviously he's the problem, right? But the fact that people can see past what he's done and still think he's friendly and or use those kinds of words, whereas I don't trust what he's saying. Who knows whether there's how much truth there is in what he's saying. And I know he loves to speak openly about the crimes he's committed. And I know that they kind of link that back and go, yeah, he's consistent enough for it to be factual. But the fact that people who are in and around him can actually go, I think he's friendly, that's almost part of the problem. Because a kid who kills their grandparents the way he did deserves something a little bit more serious than what he got, I think. And I think the fact that people are so willing to look past those really horrible behaviours, I don't know, I find that scary in itself.
I wonder if that sort of thing, I wonder how much his physical, being so tall, it's kind of that sort of in plain sight. When you look at somebody and think, oh my God, they look evil or whatever else, I don't really look at him and think anything. I just would have thought, oh, what a tall, awkward man. Do you know what I mean? It's really like the way he speaks, the way he presents himself is just so ordinary in some respects. You can't see enough of the evil. Where, sometimes you look at somebody and go, people always say, oh, he looks like a serial killer. In actual fact, probably a nice person. And we've seen on a number of occasions that sometimes these people just look really normal. And that's why they can get away with things the way they do, because people aren't looking for the sinister. They just see the ordinary. I do really struggle with knowing how to make a sentence meaningful, given just how macabre his crimes were. And then it was never enough that he murdered them. It was what he then did to the bodies afterwards, and how he chopped them up, and how he kept the heads, and then how he destroyed that. That's where I think, how could I possibly come up with something that's going to make light of that or put him in his place? That is so sick.
I do think the stroke was a stroke of genius, because I don't know how bad it is, but I would like punishment to prevent him from being able to talk about his crimes anymore. I think he gets off on talking about his crimes. And so the joy that he exudes when he's talking about it, I think is absolutely self-indulgent. It's not like...
I think he's zapping. What's he zapping? What's the word?
Zapping.
Zapples, yeah.
I think he's probably doing that. I think you're right. I absolutely think that that's part of it, because it appears to me that someone who's so willing to be forthright in coming, let me tell you exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
Oh, I did this, I did that. They love having an audience. They obviously want to share what they've done, because I think they think they're smart.
He does.
A lot of it's got to do with like a sense of intelligence and going, well, this is why I do what I do. I've got away with this, and I'm friends with these people, and I was friends with the police, and I'm friends with the psychiatrist, and I'm working on these tests and whatever else. I'm superior in that way, that I can get away with this stuff because I guess I'm just one step ahead of you.
So
let me tell you about it.
So I think a stroke that prevents him from being able to talk about his crimes is suitable. I do think he probably needs to be confined to a diet that only consists of a bag of dicks for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And preferably he's unable to put them in his own mouth, so he has to have them shoved down his throat.
Choke on his own.
Well, yeah, or just any random ones, a little bit of Sada Abe style, just that
battered sav.
Gag on this, mate.
Battered sav.
Because it's filthy. This one, I mean, it makes me feel sick. As you're going through it, the whole thing is just messed up, and
I've left quite a lot out.
Yeah. And the pride that he shows in it, he just thinks he's fantastic almost for doing it. And let me tell you another story about,
Let me call you. I'm going to let you come and get me now, because I think I'm done. I've achieved what I want to achieve. So look, again, what the folly of it all? It's enough.
Yeah.
I'm done. I mean, off.
Exactly right.
Ugh. The poor families who must imagine.
It's horrendous. I think this, just for your sentencing, this is another quote from him. If I killed them, they couldn't reject me as a man. It was more or less making a doll out of a human being and carrying out my fantasies with a doll, a living human doll.
I do think he wanted to die from torture. I think having a bag of dicks inserted in him in any way that we could find possible would absolutely be horrendous for him, because there's something about him trying to be a man through what he's done, and maybe that might make him feel like
Maybe
less
his
of a
mother can be
man.
the person who's the one who's
Feeding
shoving
him
him
the
down
bag.
his-
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, darling, look what's for dinner.
Yeah, more dicks.
A bag of dicks.
Yeah, he makes me sick, and I'm really annoyed at people in that workplace who think that he's friendly, because you've got to be better than that. You can't be forgiving someone who's done all of those horrible things and going, I can put all of that aside. He's just friendly. I like to sit down and have a chat with him.
This has happened a couple of times, though, where we do
it
the model
does.
prisoner.
Yeah.
We do model prisoner time and time again. And it's like there's only one or the other. It's either they're dreadful or they're model. And we don't ever say, oh, they were okay. They had some ups and downs. But it was, oh, no. They either continue to, try and do stuff from inside, or it's wonderful and everyone's, better than they ever were. I just don't buy it. What's your punishment, Schmidty?
Oh, I'm just going to give you a few more bits. So the thing about it being model is that he might have met a model psychiatric patient, and certainly he's a model prisoner. But in the latter, the prosecutor has very clearly said he's never getting out. He's a danger to society.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how good he is. It doesn't matter what he does. So to probably make you feel a little bit better, Clarkie, the wool has not been pulled over her eyes. She's never going to let that man get out.
Yeah, which is great.
So, that, and maybe it's a quote like this that sticks in her mind when she thinks like that. Also from Mr. Kemper. When I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think two things. One part of me wants to be real and nice and sweet, and the other part wonders what her head would look like on a stick.
I mean, come on.
Why do you say this shit out loud, mate? So I think for my punishment for Mr. Kemper is sort of a kind of a roll-up of some bits and pieces. I'm thinking about head on a stick. I'm thinking about, the things that he's done. And I'm even casting my mind back to those poor cats. So I think I might bury him, and what I'm not sure about is, do I bury him alive, like that poor cat, that first cat that he killed, or do I bury him up to his neck so that people can shove things into his mouth and he has no control over it?
Could you? Is there such a thing as a dick snorkel?
I don't know. I don't even know what. I sort of know what it is now. I'm like, what's a dick snorkel?
That's made it up. Yeah. If you bury him alive and he needs to get oxygen, the only way he can get it is through his dick snorkel. So he's got to put a dick in his mouth. And I think he would hate that, and he would have to work out whether he wants to live or be emasculated.
Well, the other thing is, as you know, it's physically impossible to fillet yourself generally, but we could remove a few ribs for him and then sort of squash him into a position where he has to perform iramatio on himself.
Oh, but he's got to have his head chopped off if that's going to happen.
Chopped off, yeah.
It's
not necessarily. Iramatio doesn't require decapitation.
No, but he does.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. The jury has spoken.
Yeah. Just to your point around what he says about, when he sees a 15-year-old girl, he wonders blah blah blah. I go back to the psychological things he was doing in jail, where he worked out what he had to say to get released.
Yeah.
And I feel like he loves the notoriety, and I just wonder how much of what he says is just him big noting himself, saying what he thinks people want to hear, just all of that. Like, just take the camera away from him. Yes, I understand it's helpful for certain
So let them do that, as you say, without and let no one else
correct,
need
and
know
don't
it.
say that he's friendly, and don't say that he's a nice bloke or whatever. He's a
you've really helped us. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Just give him nothing.
Yeah, get on to it, but give him no idea that's been
dark hole with a dick snorkel and let him yap away all he wants when no one can hear.
I think that's fair. No, I think it's fair. He is a really revolting individual.
I
don't know what a dick snorkel is. I'm going to be left with that image now, and I'm not quite sure what I'm even picturing.
I've got a very clear picture of it, which worries me hugely.
It sounds like a real thing, doesn't it? Yeah, that's right.
In some sex shop it probably is.
It puts a new word to the new meaning to blowjob. All
right. Well, I think on that note, we might complete the story.
Yay!
Mr. Kemper.
So I'm glad that one's over.
Oh, miss you already.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from Pixabay.com.